What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of Romer's Pod, and I'm here with Chris Grant. Chris Grant is, I was just telling him before this, I've heard his name so much over the years. As a bookseller back in the day, I would hear Chris Grant, Chris Grant, Chris Grant when it comes to OA. And recently I saw you on Buy Box Bandits, I think. Were you on Buy Box Bandits?
Yeah, I have been.
Yeah, and Steve was talking about you, Steve Rakin, and I'm like, let me just get this guy on my podcast. So, welcome, episode number 1. I don't have too much knowledge usually. When I introduce you at Miami, I'll have more to say about you. I usually like pump people up with their sales, but I'm sure you're a 7-figure seller annually.
Uh, just about.
Close.
So here's the thing. Because I keep so many irons in the fire, the goal of our Amazon business is really just to be able to pay the bill. So if everything else went away, all the stuff that I really, really love to do and that kind of brings me fulfillment, if all of that went away, like the bills are paid.
Gotcha. So,
And so yeah, but yeah, we do all right on Amazon.
yeah. Okay, cool. And you've probably had your heyday where you like sell like a crazy amount in like a short period of time. We all have.
Oh yeah.
Your chlorine. I think I did 40,000 in one day, and I was just thinking of like how insane that is. And like, like my OA sales I think my OA sales now are probably like maybe 60,000, but it's like the fact that I did 40,000 in one day. It's like OA is just strange like that. Like books aren't really like that. Like you're not gonna sell like all your books in one day. Like you're not gonna have one giant day. Like you're gonna have textbook season, But anyway, welcome to the podcast. And if you just want to talk a little bit about how you got started with all this and really how you built yourself up, is in my head at least like the OA kind of like OG in the community.
Yeah, I'd love to. I wish I was the OG. I always give credit to like Chris Green and guys like that who kind of paved the way. But
maybe I'm confusing you with him.
It's very possible.
Maybe I should get him on next.
Oh, Chris is a great guest. He's a great hang.
That's
and a lot of fun.
That's very funny. Like you guys probably build each other's brands for people that just kind of like gloss over your content by accident. They probably think you're the same person.
It very well could be. He's a heck of a lot taller than me, so when you see us in real life, it's
you
easy
can't tell on YouTube though.
Yeah. But no, I'll go all the way back to like seventh and eighth grade. Seventh and eighth grade, we started flipping pizza, and that was kind of the first arbitrage that I ever had my hand in.
So how many years ago? Like how old are you?
37.
Okay, wow.
So it's been a while. Yeah.
Okay.
But we would buy from Pizza Hut and we'd bring it in, and on Fridays we'd sell it to the other kids, and then our class paid for all kinds of stuff. We paid for trips, we paid for new basketball backboards for our gym, and all kinds of stuff. And that's probably the first thing that introduced me to arbitrage, and even a little bit of the coupon portion, because we'd always negotiate every single year. We would negotiate a little bit and say, well, how deep of a discount can we guarantee throughout the rest of the year for the pizza that we purchase? And then, go through the years. I'd had a couple other things. I'd hire my brothers to go and push snow off of people's driveways. I'd do the selling. They would do the physical labor, and then I'd give them a little bit of cash for doing that.
So you knew about the delegation from early on. I feel like that's what I missed out on when I was like 17, 18. I was just doing everything myself, and I was like, I get $25 for cutting this yard. It's all mine. But I didn't really think I could pay somebody else, $8 an hour to do it and take maybe $10. That was something I had to learn.
I was fortunate because so not everyone in my family is entrepreneurial minded, but my grandfather had an insurance agency, and so I kind of got to watch a little bit, because I'd go and I'd work there in the summer times. I'd file paperwork and answer the phones, and so I got to see a little bit about how you do need to delegate, both how to delegate properly and how to delegate improperly. Which I think has helped me, throughout the years. Some of the lessons I learned, kind of being a fly on the wall in a business that was brick and mortar.
So when did e-commerce start?
Uh, E-commerce started a while later. So, I mean, I've sold on eBay. I had an eBay account the minute I turned 18. I got my eBay account set up and I would sell old electronics and things like that. But then I went into the family business. I actually sold insurance for 12 years.
Mm,
But when I was about, I don't know, maybe 26 or so, I was like, you know what? I really want to find another way to make an income other than slinging insurance and, pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, and things like that. And so I started looking around and I actually found drop shipping on eBay was the first thing I found. I did that and it just was not
and
as
this is like when you're
scalable.
26, so this is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's 10, 11 years ago. Um, and I was like, it just was not scalable. I had to, stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning fulfilling all these orders, and then go to work the next day. And so I kept searching, and I happened across a podcast from Pat Flynn with Jessica LaRue, and I learned about FBA. And then I found Chris Green, and I read his books. And I was like, you know what? Let's take a stab at this. So I went out and I actually bought some. I bought some old magazines off of Craigslist. It was like 2 or 3 USPS boxes full of these older magazines, and I listed them all for sale. And maybe a week or 2 weeks later, I got my first sale and shipped it out myself, and everything went smoothly. But then more sales started rolling in, and I was like, okay, I was like, this actually works. I had validated it. So then I started sending in items. I would thrift items. I would, buy books and board games and, out of date electronics, and I'd send those into Amazon, and, just validated what was working. And then once I sold a copy of Microsoft, what is that airplane, the simulator they have.
Mm, I don't know.
And anyway, they have a airline simulator, and I bought it for 5. I sold it for like $125, and from then I was hooked. Uh, so
And
then
like
we
10
started
years
doing.
ago,
Mhm.
what is kind of like, because now like you got Gary Vee like hyping up flipping. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like a cool thing. It's like how Elon Musk made like electronic cars cool. I feel like flipping is kind of like a cool thing to do now.
yeah.
Whereas like 10 years ago, I feel like it kind of wasn't. So what made you like who were you watching at the time? Like I don't think Rake and Profit was making content. Reezy
Yeah.
Resells, was he posting anything?
No, he wasn't. Chris Green was the guy. He
Okay.
was, created Scan Power, wrote online arbitrage, wrote retail arbitrage. He may have invented those terms, to be quite honest. And that was it. And then I was hanging out in Facebook groups. They were a heck of a lot smaller than they are now, but everybody was sharing ideas and things like that, and it was great. It never came to fruition, but I actually offered, like when I was new, I was like, hey, listen, I will fly myself to you. I'll, do whatever it takes to learn from people who, were crushing it back then. Never came to fruition, but that's like how serious I was about it when I really started to take it serious.
Gotcha. And so at what point does like the online arbitrage that's kind of like happening now, like buying from Walmart, Nike, websites like that, when did that start to happen?
Uh, I started to do that probably around, let's see, it would have been like 2012, 2013. We were we had went from thrifting to doing books only, and then bulk books, and then we were doing retail arbitrage. But we decided that we wanted to start a family, and I was like, well, I can't really spend 12 to 16 hours a day in my car, driving around the
Yeah.
entire state picking up inventory. And
Yeah.
so I was like, let's do this online. And there were other people talking about it, and it's not like I invented the idea or anything, but I would go out and I would do this, and tactical arbitrage was coming along at the time, so I learned how to use that. And then we just transitioned. That way I could stay at home and I could be at home when, my kid learned how to walk, and I could make sure to take him to school, and I didn't have to be pounding the pavement for retail arbitrage fines all the time.
Right, right. And so what was kind of like your first OA flip?
That's a good
Like
question.
traditional O, I guess like you already talked about the eBay stuff, but like when did you start buying from like these retail sites?
Oh man. Uh, I, it
Or
was,
like
it,
like do you remember like what kind of stuff you were flipping? Was it like supplements? Was it beauty products? Was it clothing?
yeah, I've never been big into clothing. I'm not a great dresser, and it doesn't interest me, and so I
Hey, you don't
can't
got
do
to
it.
dress good to sell good.
That's true. But I've always been attracted to the supplements and beauty products.
I think part of it is like I think part of it is like if you see something that's like outrageously priced, or not outrageously priced, but like priced high, you're like, nobody's gonna buy this because maybe
Hmm.
you wouldn't buy it yourself. But the fact is, and like this, you're wearing a Keep a shirt. You can look at the data and see, oh, people will buy that, supplement for $50, even though it doesn't work. Like you might know
Exactly.
it's like a dormant chemical and it's already been scientifically proven that it doesn't work, but people will still buy it because of the market. And it's just that's just how it is,
Yeah.
And I feel like there is like even me. I've flipped a lot of textbooks and like a hard science textbook like physics or chemistry. I'm like, that's a good book. That's worth $200.
Hmm.
But then I see like I'm a dancer, but I see like dance theory, and I'm like, this is bullshit. like you're gonna charge $300 for dance theory, and so like I'm like, no, I'm gonna flip that book, and it doesn't make any sense at all. But like the Keepa data suggests that maybe the dance theory book sells better, but I'm just like, people like when the world goes to shit, people need chemists and they need physicists, and like that's probably not the best way to think about it. But I feel like even with my OA flips now, like there's certain items where I just have like an emotional kind of attachment to, and I'm like, I feel good about this because I know it's a good product.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, something I learned selling insurance that I've brought over to selling on Amazon, which has helped me, is never to sell out of your own pocket. So I sold this really stupid product one time. It was called fur oil, and it was softening oil for the hair down there. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, nobody's going to buy this. Nobody is going to pay $150 for this stuff. And sure
Yeah,
enough, it flew off the
they
shelf.
did.
And once I figured that out, I was like, all right, anytime there's an arbitrage opportunity, we hop on it. Doesn't matter what it is.
Gotcha. So for somebody just starting out, a complete beginner that wants to flip their first product
Mhm.
and they want to find a product that actually sells for a profit on Amazon, what websites do you recommend to go to, or what process do you recommend to find that product in the shortest period of time with the highest chance that it actually sells for a profit?
So I'm a big fan of sourcing sales, and I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to get a win, because you get and I'm talking like short-term sales, not a 10% off coupon you can use every single day. And it's one of the reasons I really like Walgreens. Walgreens has these short-term sales, and these sales kind of run on a cyclical basis. So you can, I didn't make up this term, but you can kind of create sale plans or replenishable items that you can pick up every time a sale happens. But if you combine a sale with a discount gift card, with cash back, and maybe you go and find another coupon, you're driving down the price before you ever even purchase it, and it gives you a lot more room to make mistakes. So that's what I'm a big fan of. Wherever there's a sale going on, you go find it. We actually created a program to help people find sales. It's called Sales Gazer. It's kind of like an email inbox, and you just go in there every day, and we have like 800 or 900 websites that just email this inbox all day long, and you can go through and you can search for 25% off, or 30% off, or buy two get one free, or whatever. But find a place like that, find a discount gift card, and then go and manually search every single product until you find something. Double check that it sells with Keepa. Make sure that the Make sure the buy box history looks pretty good, and make sure that like the lowest price, you're still at break even or better, over the past 90 days, and you're going to have a good chance that that sells through profitably.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah, that's good advice. And then if people want to like scale, like they want to, let's say they want to do like 30,000 a month in sales. First of all, what do you think is like an average profit margin for an online arbitrage business?
I think someone who, is kind of a medium-sized seller, I think they can do 10 to 12% margins, and that's a pretty healthy business. Yeah, especially when you think about most retailers are running around 1 to 2% margins. So when we can do 5 to 7x what a traditional retailer can do, I think that's really, really good. Smaller sellers could probably do 18 to 20% margins if they're really, really careful and don't have a lot of subscriptions and things like that. But yeah, I think as you grow, that 10% mark is kind of where you want to be.
Gotcha. And so like in order to grow, like what would you say the biggest difference is from like a small scale OA operation to like not even like a large scale operation, but like what's that difference in like somebody who's selling like 30,000 plus a month consistently versus the person who's like, oh, I did 25K this month, but then next month they're doing like 5K. And then like the month after, maybe nothing.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of it has to do with speed and understanding the faster that you can turn your inventory, the better. The better for cash flow, the better for the ability to compound your growth. That is kind of it's kind of the magic pill that Amazon sellers have, is the fact that we can turn inventory so fast. But then I see a lot of people who will be like, oh, well, the price dipped on this, and so I'm going to hold, I'm going to wait it out. And I think that's a bad idea. I think that we need to.
Can you give us like a time frame for like when you should sell? Because like, are you talking like 30 days? The price tanks. Are you saying go down with the price and just get your money back?
Yeah, for me, what I do is from day 0 to day 30, I need to get a 20% minimum ROI on my money. At day 30, I actually go to anywhere from, I'll go all the way down to a 0% ROI. I'll be happy to break even at day 30 through 60, and day 90.
This is active on Amazon. This is not like when you purchase it, it starts counting the days. Like you're
right. Yeah. I wait till it checks in. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Day number 90, I'm willing to take a 20% loss to get any capital back so that I can put that back into the business. So
interesting.
Yeah, I want things moving as quickly as possible.
And what are you using to program that? Do you have like a repricer that configures that for you?
Yeah, I do. I use a repricer all the time on everything.
What name?
I use Aura.
Aura, okay. And that allows you to put rules like that in there, or are you having to do something on the back end to?
So there is a way to kind of automate that if you set it up properly on the front end. They have some workflows where you could use things in your SKU to change the rules. I don't do that. I just go in and I look at my aged inventory report, and then I'll go and I'll change things around. And I have rules set up. I've got my, my regular, I call it what's it called? Buy box. I can't remember, but I've got my buy box strategy. I've got a break even strategy.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. I used to use it. Buy box. They have an interesting word. It's like optimizer, or like it's something like aggressive. I don't know.
Yeah. So and then at 90 days, I've got a liquidation strategy that I'll use.
Okay. And that liquidation strategy is just at a 20% loss.
Yeah. Unless I need to go in there and tweak some things, that's typically where I'm at if I have to take a loss.
Gotcha. We got our first comment rolling in on our first podcast.
Oh, nice.
Shout out to AM. If you guys do have questions for Chris, we can jump into some Q&A at the end. I do have a lot of questions for you. Let me think real quick. I definitely want to ask you about VAs. Are you, because now I'm thinking, like, is what I heard about you, or is it the Chris Green guy? So now I'm like, but I've heard that one of you is really good with VAs.
I'm not too bad with virtual
Okay.
assistants. I've
I
had
think Warner said it.
several.
I
Yeah.
think Warner was like, "Oh, I'm excited to see him in Miami. I'm going to ask him about virtual assistants." So, you want to talk a little bit about how you train your virtual assistants to find profitable inventory, and not virtual assistants that make it more difficult for your life by just finding a bunch of stuff that's crap? Because that's something I've found is virtual assistants can make your life harder because they give you 10 things you have to go through that take sometimes 30 minutes plus, and then you find out they're all crap, which is like a waste of your time. So how do you train your VAs to find good stuff?
Well, the biggest thing is weeding out the people who aren't going to be any good on the front end. And so, like, if you put an ad out for a virtual assistant, you could get 100, you could get 200, you could get 500 applications back if you are offering a fair amount of money and things like that. And Amazon is kind of a popular space to be a virtual assistant in. So there's a lot of people who are looking for those types of jobs. My suggestion is make sure that you've got some qualifying questions. Maybe you have them jump through a couple of hoops on the front end, just to make sure you're kind of getting you're separating the wheat from the chaff, and you're getting the people who are probably more suited for this kind of job. After that, once you have, one or two people, I'd test them. And I always pay my VAs when I test them. And it's pretty simple. I'll say, all right, listen, I need you to go to Walmart and I need you to find 5 products that match on Amazon. I said, it can be any 5 products. We don't have to worry about, it needs to be in stock. Doesn't necessarily need to be profitable. I just want to make sure that you can do that.
That is such a good, and that's like you're vetting. That's like on the, before you even hire them, right?
Yeah.
You're still, that's so much better. I used to tell people to get their VAs to make a spreadsheet of the rainbow or whatever. I think I heard it from Matt Loberstein, a private label guy, gave me that tip. But that's like way better because it's like industry specific for like what they're actually going to be doing.
Exactly. And so when they come back and let's say they give me 5 items, and let's say that 2 of them are out of stock, 2 of them don't match, and maybe there's one good one. I'm going to say, all right, thanks for your time. Here's, your hours pay, and then that's going to be it. And then the person who pulled back 5 matches, so, everything matches from Walmart to Amazon, everything's in stock, doesn't matter whether it's profitable or not. We can get to that later on. That person will be the one that I hire. And then comes the training portion. And I've got some SOPs and I've got some training material that I can give them. But you want to teach them to source like you. And this is the hard part, because a lot of times we want to just say, okay, I learned how to do this. Now you go learn how to do it. But that's we can't do that. We Amazon sellers are entrepreneurs. It's our job to go out and figure out hard shit. And the people we're hiring are much more employee mindset. And so we've got to guide them through the process. And so I always like to give them something to do, have them do it, okay? Like have them make a Loom recording, send it back to me. That way we can dissect what's going right, what's going wrong. And it's a lot of back and forth. And then eventually you'll get that dialed in, but there's going to be continual coaching after that, because things change. Maybe you learn something new, and you want to make sure that they kind of keep up with you over time.
And so, do you have a VA now, or how many are you currently working with right now?
I have 2 VAs currently.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
2. We call it 2.5, but yeah, 2 VAs currently.
And so out of those 2, every month, what would you say, what % of the leads that you're purchasing overall are from them?
I would say 60% of the leads. And here's the reason for that. I run a Q4 group. And in my Q4 group, I do the OA leads. I don't allow a VA to source them. They have to be sourced by me. So
So you're basically
during,
everybody else's VA.
yeah, I am. In our Q4 group, I am everyone else's VA. But
Yeah.
I do something a little bit different. I tell people, I said, do not source my list. But I offer, here's why it would be profitable, and then here are the rabbit trails that you should go down from this particular
Oh, that's
product.
interesting. I actually really like that.
Yeah, and
So you're not even advocating like buy these.
yeah, yeah. I told people right at the very beginning. I said I don't want you to buy off directly off of my list because that's not what a good lead list is for. It's to give you an idea of what someone who knows how to do this,
That's really interesting.
should be good.
I've never heard that before. I
But
like that.
it's yeah, it's very easy to take a lead list and then just have a ton of rabbit trails to go down and find these other
Mhm.
products or ancillary products or another listing. And I tell people to do that, and that really kind of builds a sourcing muscle much better than just sourcing off of a list.
Gotcha. So what are you more excited about? Like let's say for example, this product here is something that sells like 4,000 a month.
Hmm.
Just an example, I bought this in Colombia, the country. So you guys probably can't find this on Amazon. Maybe you can. Let me know. Versus a product. So let's say this sells like 4,000 crazy volume each month. And then something like this sells like 200 times a month. Let's say this has like a 50% ROI. Obviously, it's not going to sell for a lot because it's deodorant, but it's got a 50% ROI. This will probably have smaller margins too. Let's say it's like a $30 item, but it sells 4,000 times a month. But the caveat is this has way more competition.
Hmm.
And maybe it's sourced from a website like Walmart, where you know that there's other arbitrageurs. And this one, let's say you found it off like a one-off website, like not a
Hmm.
one-off, but like not like one of these huge known like Nike, Walmart, online arbitrage sites. You know, it's just being scraped daily. What are you more excited about? Are you excited about the smaller, more niche, higher ROI, but it's selling 200 a month? Or are you more excited about like the crazy volume, fast moving thing, but there's already a lot of sellers, but it's not like the sellers just went like up overnight,
Hmm.
but there's a decent number of sellers there. Which in general, hopefully this question makes sense, but in general, are you more excited about the faster moving products with crazy volume potential, or maybe like building a portfolio of these smaller products and they still sell a few hundred units a month, but they definitely don't have that potential for you to wake up one day and have like just a crazy amount of sales.
I'm much more excited for kind of the unsexy product that, there's not 400 sellers on. I'm a very big advocate of building up a portfolio of products that you can sell consistently. If you could just build a portfolio of products that made $30 in profit every single month after all of your fees, expenses, etc., it doesn't take that many products to build a really good business. You get 300 ASINs that you can sell consistently and make $30 in profit every single month. And that's a $9,000 a month profit business. That's well over the median household income in the US. And it really doesn't take that long. You find 5 or 10 products like that a week that are not sexy, don't sell 1,000 a month, and you could just sell maybe 10 units at $3 profit each. That's all you need, and you just need to find that 300 times to build a really good business.
Okay, that sounds great. And I've been doing this for 6 months. And what I have found personally is it is difficult for me to find. I have so many products and I am repurchasing products that have
Hmm.
sold for a profit. But one of the major things I did not anticipate coming into this business is so many products go out of stock, or they have, like you said, a limited time sale that goes away. And so you no longer can purchase it at a
Hmm.
profitable price. And number 3, to make this question more complicated, this is a new trendy thing that really flips for miles and Warner kind of blowing up is storefront stocking. So to play devil's advocate, like what if you do have this great store of products that are amazing, but they're all Googleable, so you can just Google them and find them. That's kind of like, and so yeah, you're making $30 a month on 10 products, $300, whatever, is great. But how can you hedge yourself, or how can you protect yourself from somebody just going through your store and taking all your items? So really two questions in there. Number one, how do you protect yourself against storefront stalkers? And I kind of have an idea of what the answer to that would be. And then the first part of my question, what was the first part? How I forgot the first part of my question. Do you remember the first part?
Yeah. How do you kind of fill up that catalog of products?
Yeah.
So there's no way to protect yourself against storefront stalking. It's been around for a long time.
All right, so Miles did not invent this.
So like there was an extension back in the day my buddy invented called Nate McAllister. He created Storefront Stalker Pro probably 6-7 years ago. Once tactical arbitrage kind of hit the scene, and so storefront stalking's been happening for a really long time. Nothing you can do about it. I always tell people if you're going to storefront stalk, don't try to take every single profitable product from one person. Grab a piece here or there, and it'll kind of make it a little bit of a more perennial thing that you can do rather than just ripping off every single person's storefront that you can. Good artists steal, and that's okay. But the other thing
what is that phrase again? Do you remember the whole phrase? It's like
it's good artists copy, great artists steal, I believe is the phrase.
Yeah. It's a common theme in business. After being in business for so long, and I know you're more on like the marketing side of things. I'm sure you see this all the time. Like marketers, they get into like what works to email wise or landing page wise or even like YouTube video wise. And all of a sudden, everyone just starts doing the same thing. In nature, you see it too. It's just like it's like a law of life.
I mean, most billionaires make their money by ripping off some other business's idea, and just doing it a little bit better.
Yeah, Uber is like the second rideshare app. It wasn't the first.
Nope.
I think Lyft was actually the first.
I believe
and it was called something different. It was called had a different name at the time.
Yeah, and like Airbnb was not an original idea. There was a website called like couchsurfing.com or something, and they're like, oh hey, let's make this a little bit more upscale and not feel like you're breaking into someone's house, and then Airbnb became the business it is. So
right.
Now, how can you fill your own storefront? So one of the things that I like to do is I like to find products that a lot of people probably are not going to purchase themselves when they go out and do OA. And there's a lot of myths and things out there that just keep perpetuating. Like, the number of sales rank drops equals the number of sales on a product and stuff like that. Well, I can go out and I can find these products that probably don't fit the mold for a lot of people. But I will sell them. Maybe something that doesn't have sales rank but still sells. Maybe something that looks like it's only selling 10 times a month, but really it's selling 20 or 30 times a month, and I'm only one of 2 sellers. So you kind of play around the fringes a little bit, and people don't stalk your storefront. You don't see a ton of people come onto your listings because they think they're not selling just because they haven't learned how to really read Keepa quite as well as you.
Interesting. I just had a really good question pop up in my head. If I can remember it, I need to start taking more of this. What is it called? Supplement right here. Lion's Mane. This helps you focus. I need to pop one of these right now because I keep forgetting what I'm going to say. It was something about... was it VA? Oh, you're spending. So when you spend, are you finding that you sporadically spend? So like, or you don't have like, people say I might have a goal of spending $3,000 a day,
Mm-hmm.
or 5,000 or 300, whatever it is. Are you finding that a lot of your spend just happens out of nowhere? And it's like not really consistent, but there's days where you spend a ton, and maybe months where you spend like an outrageous amount, and then there's months where you spend very little. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the nature of the game.
Yeah.
Sales are going to be cyclical. Like this week, I haven't seen a ton of sales that are like really, really sexy. But I know that in a couple of weeks we've got Black Friday coming up, and so retailers are kind of holding off a little bit. But I mean that's going to happen. But as long as you're at bat consistently, it's going to even out over time. Uh, I have a daily spend goal, and there are times when I don't spend any money. I'm striking out, and that's just the way it happens. But then you'll hit something on a Friday, and you'll drop $5,000 or $10,000, and it makes up for for all the zeros you batted earlier in the week.
Yeah. Yeah. I always used to look at these OA guys before I started doing it and judge them and be like, they don't have a real business. I have a real book business that does consistent numbers every month, but they have a business that does more than me one month, but the next month it's going to be down. Like I would literally see these kids do like 300K in a month, but then like a few months later they'd be at zero.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's that bad of a thing, because it means they sold out and they got all their money back, and now they
Yep.
can play with that again. Do they have the systems in place to have inventory always being purchased and everything on autopilot? No, but they do have this skill of spending a lot of money, selling through the inventory, and then deciding what to do with that money next.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an underrated thing in online arbitrage is like, your money is so valuable. Like most of us aren't out here, with a huge bankroll. So don't pretend like you do have one. And so it's really important that your money comes back to you at a higher amount. It comes back to you as quickly as possible. And anything that gets in the way of that should be eliminated, And for me, I've always been a big VA guy.
Mm-hmm.
Hire virtual assistants, do this, that. But if a VA is going to result in a 20% ROI, whereas your own sourcing will result in a 40% ROI, and let's just say, I'm going to say only, but let's say you only have $100,000 to work with, or capital to work with, it is going to be way better for you to bite the bullet and find 40% ROI products and faster selling products, higher quality products, than to save a few hours a week and have the VA do it, if that's going to result in your money not turning as quickly. And I think that is a lesson that I learned. And so anything that gets in the way, even slow prep time,
Mm-hmm.
because slow prep time, what it does is it extends the period of time between your item being purchased and being active on Amazon. And the longer that period of time is, the more likely that the product does tank.
Yeah.
So slow prep time, bad virtual assistants, or just bad sourcing habits in general, bad sourcing strategies. Even if you're doing the sourcing yourself and you have bad sourcing strategies, that would be getting in the way. Maybe the category you're going after, maybe, Taylor Jones just made a huge shift. I'm not saying everyone should make this shift, but he went from clothing primarily. He had like a 40% return rate one month. I don't know what happened, but it was pretty bad. And he shifted to beauty. So now his return rate's like 15% or less.
Okay.
And so now the money that comes back to him stays longer. It's like not going to get sucked back out from returns. And so like, I think a lot of people kind of overestimate, or maybe I'm just talking to myself, but I think when I got in this, I got a little bit too delegation mode.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the most important thing was to get my money back as quickly as possible, in the largest amount coming back to me as possible. Yeah. And I set up several things that saved time, but they inevitably brought down the quality of the lead. So
yeah,
it is entirely possible. The weird thing about OA versus like other businesses. Like if you just have a brick and mortar and you want to like delegate and scale it and do different things, like you probably need to hire pretty early on. Or maybe like a better example would be like if you started selling books and you're doing bulk books. For you to do bulk books all by yourself, you just have a job. You're just scanning through pallets. And so it actually makes sense to hire just a few, even if it's just a few people to go through the pallets and then list the books. And that operation easily scales with delegation. But with OA, you can spend such outrageous amounts of money on product that you can find yourself. One kid or one person can find hundreds of thousands of dollars in profitable product once they get good in a week. So then it's like, you can scale this business without any employees for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are people doing, 100,000, 200,000 a month all by themselves, doing OA. That's not too big of a deal.
And it's not like they don't have employees, because they do. Because Amazon FBA, you have like all these people packing for you. You have the sales platform that you didn't have to build yourself. Jeff Bezos already built it. Like there are a lot of things. And so like it actually kind of pissed me off for a while, because I'm like, these people don't know how to build a team. They don't have leadership. They don't do this. But like the truth is, all of that is already done. Like these things are still happening on the back end. But anyway, like I think that like you can really just stay a one-man army for a long time. And I used to like kind of judge people for that. But now I think that it's actually kind of like the smarter thing to do, because the most important thing is that you're buying good inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your buying decisions are the most important thing. And, the better you become at sourcing and selling on Amazon, the easier it is to be able to hire as well, because, I mean, you've got to know how to do it first before you can show someone else and kind of build them into your systems.
Exactly. And you can't let it affect your lead quality at all. You can't, like, I think if you hire a VA and you're like, well, the VA does it, like, the VA gets me half as good leads. Well, it's like now your money's half as valuable. Like the VA has to like get pretty damn close to what you could do.
Yeah, I like to get them to about 80%. I know that I can't necessarily go and recreate myself, but I mean, if I could, that'd be great. But, if I can get someone to about 80% of what I can do, I'm usually pretty happy.
Yeah, there's probably some type of mathematical equation out there. Like, and it also depends on like what kind of lifestyle you want to have, how much free time you want to have, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, this is really a game of like capital management, like where are you putting your money and how much is coming back. And if you're hiring somebody that just severely hurts that process, it cannot look like that big of a deal, because you're like, oh, I'm only paying this guy $400 or $500 a month. He's overseas. He's working for me. But what you're not seeing is the quality of stuff that you're buying could be that much worse. And really, it's like, it's not a $400 mistake. It could be a $4,000 mistake.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So. Got a few questions coming in here.
Right.
Tripa says, hi, Roman. Who's Roman? I have received a product authenticity on a used electronic product on Amazon and requested a distributor invoice that I can supply as an item. It was used. What should I do? You got any advice? You probably got better advice than I do on that.
On a used, well, it says they can supply the distributor invoice. If that's true, you're going to want to do it. That way you can hopefully get that taken off. But I don't know where you sourced it.
Is kind of bad. I think what they meant was Amazon's asking for an invoice and they don't have one for a used product.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and accept responsibility. And
if you do have any type of invoice for it, upload it. If you got it from Goodwill, whatever. But how do you do inventory forecasting? Any advice?
It's not great. It's mostly I'll see what Amazon suggests, and then I'll use my own sales statistics and kind of what's in my head to figure it out. I probably should get on like Replen Dashboard or some other tool and see how well it works, but I've never done it, so just done it the old school way.
When using a repricer, what do you recommend? Match the lowest prime or buy box? You kind of talked a little bit about that. I think you do the buy box method.
Yeah, I'm always looking for the buy box. But I have a repricer that prices both up and down. I don't know about I've heard good things about Be Cool. I haven't used them in like 8 or 9 years, so I can't speak on how good they are. But
I think they
um,
may have a repricing up now. I know Warner talks about it in his course.
okay,
But yeah, it's extremely important that your repricer goes up. If it doesn't
yeah.
go up, you're just going to go down the whole time.
Yeah. So that's one thing. I would make sure. Here's the problem. A lot of people like to blame repricers for tanking prices, but it's usually not repricers. It's usually repricers that have been set up improperly. Okay.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is to make sure that you actually have the rules set up properly, and double check them, triple check them before you deploy your repricer. Because yes, my repricer will chase down the buy box to try to get it. However, it will also go right back up, and I'll see sales quite often, that are 50 cents, 75 cents, maybe $1.50 difference, because I'm going back up in price when I have the buy box, or if the buy box hits my minimum. There's all kinds of things that'll trigger my price going back up.
Scott Needham, he's a top Amazon seller. I'm sure you know who
Big
he is.
seller, yeah.
Smartest seller. He was number 6 on Amazon at one point. Out of all Amazon sellers, he was number 6. He spoke at Miami Sellers Conference last year, and he said, I actually didn't pay attention until after the conference. I rewatched it, and I was like, wow, that's big. But he was talking about how he changed his profit margin. He increased his profit margin from 14% to 18% by pricing up at nighttime. And he also prices up midday for a period of time, which we're doing now, which is really interesting. You mentioned pricing up once you get the buy box. Are there any other scenarios where you price up?
I price up. I price up in the middle of the night as well. So
Okay.
I've got an automation that takes my price to my maximum, usually between like midnight and 2 a.m. or something. And typically there's not a lot of sales happening then. So if there are any, and people's repricers aren't set up, they can have those kind of late night sales. And then I can't remember where I heard it. Maybe it was him, but I also around noon every single day will reprice to my max for about 30 minutes, and then it starts going back.
Do you have any sales velocity repricing? So like if you sell like 100 of a unit, try to go up a little bit.
I don't. Aura doesn't have that capability yet. It's
Gotcha.
coming.
But that's probably something you would notice.
Yeah. So
You'd
I've
be like,
never.
oh crap, this is selling a lot. Let me see if I can raise the price.
Yeah. So I mean, we typically don't focus on a lot of really high volume items. So people show screenshots of Seller Amp and it's like, oh, 5,000 sales a month. It doesn't get my juices flowing. It's not what I'm looking for. But the item that's selling 100 times a month, that's typically what I'm on.
Gotcha.
And so I'd never really have too much of a velocity based repricer issue. But when I get into the buy box, I start repricing up by about 2 pennies until I lose it.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Chris. Everybody can catch you at Chris Grant on all platforms, right?
At Clear the Shelf on
Clear the Shelf,
everywhere.
right? Clear the
Yeah.
Shelf. You got cleartheshelf.com. Go check out his content. I've heard a lot about this guy. He's the OG. He will be speaking at Miami 2023. I'm going to start calling it MSC, Miami Sellers Conference, MSC 2023. You guys can get tickets at miamisellersconference.com. He'll be dropping bombs on an arbitrage. He'll be drinking, what are they called? What are those drinks called that start with a bomb? Anyway, he'll be drinking on the yacht. Maybe if you drink, do you drink?
Occasionally, yeah, I will
Okay.
socially. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We had Caleb Roth was pretty lit on the yacht last year. So day 2 is going to be on the yacht. If you guys decide to purchase your ticket, they're not cheap for day 2, but we are getting a yacht, and all the speakers, or most of the speakers, will be there. So appreciate you coming on, man. It was a pleasure
thanks for having me.
speaking with you, and see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Adios.